Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another video. It's a beautiful day today. Really glad that you can join me here in this sunny part of the world, perhaps a little bit too sunny, but we're working with it. Today we're talking tents, specifically the Hilleberg Enan. So for those of you guys who've watched any of my videos, you'll know that I'm a long-term Acto user. So I now have my hands on an Enan. I've been using it for the last 7 months and I wanted to give you a sort of run through of how we've been getting on with this tent. So it weighs in at 1.2 kilograms. It's got fantastic weight to space ratio. So for what you're carrying, you get great space, as you'll see throughout in the video. Once we're pitched up, I'll put some stuff in the tent so you can see sort of what it looks like, the setup, how things fit. But this comes in your sort of green color like this. It comes in red, it comes in sand, and there's all sorts of different features with this tent that make it reasonably appealing. The one thing that most people are put off by, let's be honest, is the price tag. So this tent retails at £640. This is a real sort of top-end tent, but then again, it is Hilleberg. Hilleberg are renowned for their quality. You know, Swedish brand. I love what they stand for. They are really, really great. So anyway, this video, we're gonna have a lowdown about this tent. Let's get going. So what I've done here is I've basically just taken everything out of the bag. So this is the bag that it comes with. It's really, really lightweight. It's made of the Canon 1000, which is the same as the outer tent here. And you can see it literally, I mean, it just scrunches up to smaller than my hand. And basically, I tend to keep this, once everything's packed away, in a dry bag. So everything's sort of protected and not necessarily from the rain so much as just snagging and things like that. There's an air show going on, so there's quite a lot of air noise. Hopefully you can bear with me for that. So anyway, the contents of the bag. So we've got some 9mm poles, or a 9mm pole, as well as a repair kit. So these tent poles, I mean, they're the same as the Acto, and they do snap. It is worth carrying the repair kit on you because I use my Acto, and basically these joining points are quite susceptible to breaking. The poles themselves are quite susceptible to bending. They're not super strong, but they are very light. So that's the poles, and they stay in their own little bag. And then the pegs are in a bit more of a robust bag. So this is the same fabric as the base of the tent, the ground sheet. And basically you get 8 of these lightweight tent pegs. So they are branded Hilleberg. They have got a little bit of a guy rope, so you can get them in and out of the ground, or out of the ground a little bit easier. And they're sort of like an X shape. No, not quite an X. I don't really know how to describe it, like a windmill shape, but they are exceptionally light. And you don't get a spare one with these. You can pitch this tent with 6 pegs, but I do use the 8 because it's, I mean, they weigh so little anyway, it's worth sort of carrying them all. So that's the tent pegs there, and I quite like the gold colour, not that that really adds anything, but I mean, it adds something. And this is the tent itself, so obviously makes up the bulk of the package. So we'll have a look, we'll get it pitched up in a minute. We've already mentioned, you know, you've got the Canon 1000 outer, so really need to sort of watch where you're pitching this. This is a 3-season tent, as we've already talked about, but you don't want to be, you know, pitching this in brambles and stuff like that, because it's just going to be shredded to pieces. It's not super robust, it's not built for that, but it is built for sort of comfort, for, you know, helping you work at speed when you're on the trail, and just get a good night's sleep, hopefully. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get this pitched up. I'm not too worried about how long it takes to pitch. All of those, I mean, there's plenty of videos on how to pitch the tent. I'm just going to get it up, and then we'll have a look at some of the features once it is up. Let's get going. So here we go, we got one Hilleberg Enan all pitched up. So what we can see here is basically what it looks like, sort of comparison height to me. I think the inside height is about 93 centimeters. So, well, we'll have a look at what that looks like in a minute. But just to sort of look at the outside features. So first of all, we can see obviously we've got the green color in full display here. So how it sort of looks with the surrounding landscape. This is quite a nice sort of stealth color if you want to do some wild camping. A bit better than the red anyway, that's what I'd say. So what we can see is we have this sort of thicker, more robust sleeve on the outside of the tent, and this is what the pole sits in. And we've also got this adjusting point, this tension adjusting point. Just realised that guy line's a bit screwed up, hang on. There we go. So we have this tension adjusting point here, so that can basically sort of make the pole a little bit tighter and just make sure you've got that roundness with the dome of the shape. So we've obviously got this tunnel design. And then I wanted to talk about the guy lines. So these are really great. They're thinner than most tents I've worked with, to be honest. They're so thin. I don't know the exact measurements, but they're flipping tiny. And then we've got these really quick use sliding tension points on the guy lights, so they're really, really easy to use. Just pull everything nice and tight, get it nice and nice and tense. And of course the pegs are in use as well. In the ground we've got the 8 staking out points, and you can see sort of what that looks like. So let's head inside. So we've got the one zip here, which is covered by a sort of plastic flap, so you can unzip the tent. There is a zip at the top, so you can zip it from the top, but we'll have a chat about that in a minute, because that's got some talking points, let's just say. A little reflection point as well if you need it. Basically the door, I'll just flip round for you, just rolls up like your classic tent door. So you've got a bit of elastic there, circular elastic, and you can loop that round the piece of plastic, and there you go, access to your tent. Ta-da! Happy days. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get my roll mat and sleeping bag and stuff in here, so you can see sort of what it looks like, and then we'll have a look at the inside features. So here we have the Enan with stuff in it. So let's just start with the porch. So I've just got a jet boil there which fell over. That's my Osprey Exos 48. So you can see how easily that fits in there. And then there's all this extra space here. I just wanted to show you the door as well. The door is completely mesh. It's got one zip point coming from the top, one from the bottom. So you can sort of half unzip it if you want to. And then here as well, we can look at the attachment points for the inner and the outer. So as I say, the inner or the outer can be pitched on its own, and then you attach the inner, and basically all it is this circle with a little plastic toggle that you put through, and this is elastic, which is amazing because it means it's just so easy to attach. There's no sort of real having to fight and loosen things off. It just fits perfectly. So there's one either corner and one at the top. There's this whole array here, and the same on this end, one at the top and two either side. So that's how the outer attaches, and it's great because it means you can really get it tight. So let's have a look inside. So straight away on the side, you can see these pockets. One is hand sized and one is 2 hand sized, or 1.5, very technical. And then we've got this obviously striking yellow fabric. So either end there is not a ventilation point, although I think, I'm not 100% sure, the fabric at the end is a little bit thinner, so it's a bit more like a vent. And then you can see for size here, so this is my Thermarest X-Lite, how well that fits. If I put that right on the end, I would never sleep like that, but if I did, then you can see how much sort of extra space is around it. So loads at the foot, loads on the side, sleeping bag fits great. This tent is just, there's just so much space in this tent. It's unbelievable for sort of what you're carrying. You've got your little, they've got to do their little disclaimer, haven't they, really? So that's all in there. I've got to get out because it's too hot in there. Oh man, it's so hot in there. It's 28 degrees. That is not tent temperature. So let's just have a little chat outside the tent. So basically, there's a number of things with this tent that I'm still struggling to sort of get used to. So much so that I'm like, I might have to move this tent on. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, I'm an Acto user, so I love my Acto. The thing is with this tent, I like the weight. I like the fact that it weighs 1.2 kilograms for pretty much exactly the same space as you get in the Acto. But let me have a look at, show you this. So one thing for me that I love about the Enan, I didn't even know I loved it about the Enan until I lost, the Acto, sorry. Didn't even know I loved it about the Acto until I lost it, is the Acto here has a rain fly thing coming over. And there's another bit zip here, so you can unzip that when you're inside and then flop the outer out of the way so you can actually look outside. But when you're in the tent with this and you unzip the top, all you got is this little point, and when you're inside, especially if your head's that way, you can't see out at all. Obviously that aids with ventilation if you're trying to cook in this porch area, but it's just, I don't like that. That makes me sad, even though I know most tents are like that. So it's not really a make or break situation for a lot of people. What might be a make and break situation though is the issue of condensation. Now it was bad with the Acto, but the Enan is a whole nother level, even though they've really tried with this and there are so many sort of ventilation options. So you've got the 2 vents either end on the tent, as we've already sort of talked about briefly. The whole inner door is mesh, and then of course you've got that venting option there with the door, open it from the top down to the bottom. Still, every single night, regardless of where I've pitched, how I've pitched, the weather I've pitched in, my sleeping bag has been soaking wet with condensation. I mean, it's just running off the outer, it's running off the inner. It's really not a very nice experience. I walked the Cleveland way, well, as you just pretty much just got back. And I mean, it was sunny like this. So thankfully, what that meant is I could dry the tent out throughout the day. But if it was raining and you were putting the tent away in the rain and getting it out and it was soaking wet and everything's just wet, I mean, there's nothing that kills morale more than everything being wet. So condensation for me has been a huge issue with this. Would I carry a footprint? No, because that's the whole point in a lighter tent. A lot of people are like, just carry a footprint. It's like, I'm trying to strip down the weight of my backpack. I don't want to put more in it. If I'm going to do that, then I may as well just get a different tent that doesn't have such an issue with the condensation. Now, a lot of people also say it's to do with the tunnel design, and yes, where you pitch, you know, close to a river, in a valley, those things are all going to affect it as well. I know this stuff, but this tent, even high up on the moors, North York moors, in the wind, a windy night as well, condensation was just, it was terrible. It was unbelievable. I was shocked by that. So that for me is the number one thing that just winds me up. So I'm having to sort of work with that. I'm still experimenting. And if you want to know how I sleep, basically I don't shut any of the doors. Both the doors are open. This one will be unzipped from the top, so the outer will be unzipped from the top, and the inner I won't even bother zipping up. So there's no other way I can really ventilate the tent. So that's a little conversation about ventilation there. But otherwise, I don't think there's anything else I've sort of really had an issue with. Occasionally the zips will stick, but I've sort of, it's a bit of a knack to sort of work with the zips. But everything else about this tent has been solid. The ground sheet is robust enough so that when you're putting it on you know, harder ground or heather or something like that, it's held up very well. Obviously the outer is fragile, and I do try to sort of look after that, but the guy ropes they've done really well. The pole's doing as well as it can, as well as it did with the Acto. So I'm getting on with this tent in certain ways, and it's just, that's why it just bothers me that the condensation is such an issue, because otherwise, like, I love the space that you get with this tent. That's my favorite thing about it, is there's just so much space, and you can really sort of spread out, try and dry things out a little bit, keep things in the porch and not have to bring things in. I mean, this is a real sort of comfort backpacking tent. So that's a sort of brief look inside, and I think what we'll just do is finish with a little summary, cover any points that I might have missed, and wrap it up from there and help you make your own decision about whether or not this is the tent for you. Alright, we are back on the fancy camera. It is ridiculously hot. I'm going to have to get away from this tent as soon as possible and in the trees. But let's just summarise this video then. So have a look at the sort of cons real quick, just to sort of go over those. So the issues for me are A, the either end is the ventilation points. If you wanted to use this as a 4-season tent, you probably wouldn't really want to, because it would be a little bit drafty, although that might help with the second issue, which is condensation. So condensation is definitely hands down a real big issue with this tent, and that's not just me having issue with that, that is most of the Acto and Enan community have issues with that. Yes, you could carry a footprint, but then you lose the benefit of the weight here. What other issues have I got? To be fair, those are the sort of main points. Obviously the pole can be a little bit fragile, the fabric is a little bit fragile, but they've had to use those features in order to get the weight down. So the main thing for me literally are just the condensation. And I suppose there's not a lookout point. I quite like that feature, but that's not a make or break, as we already talked about, for some people. So yeah, that's a shame for me, and I really felt that when I was on the Gritstone Trail, sort of first using this this tent. I'm like, oh, can't see out, what am I going to do? I feel a bit claustrophobic, but we got over it. So there we go. So that's the cons, and then the pros basically is how much it weighs, so 1.2 kilograms, and the space that you get for that. The fact that inside just feels fantastic. You've got freedom to move around, to store stuff in the porch, in the tent. The yellow I think is great, it's a nice lively colour, and the green is fantastic for wild camping as well. So and then the stuff that they have got to sort of lighten down the tent, I think the guy lines are really robust. The adjustment points are fantastic. They're so easy to use with cold hands. And there's nothing worse than sort of getting to camp when you know your hands are cold, you just want to get a brew on, but you're fiddling around with your tent trying to get things right because it's not elastic or it's not easy to use. And this tent, they've put all the thought into that. They know what they're doing. These guys are very good at what they do. This is a very, very well made tent. But of course it comes at a £645 price tag, which is very much a lot of money. So whether or not this is the tent for you, that's up for you to decide. But I've just hopefully given you a little bit of an insight into how this tent works. And I want to do a sort of after a year of using this tent review, and we'll just do different stages. How am I getting on? How does it compare to other tents? I have got a Hilleberg Acto versus Enan tent, so you can see the difference there, because the Acto is a little bit cheaper, but it's a little bit heavier. So have a look at that video if you're interested in that comparison. But any questions, any comments, please pop it in the description below. We'll help each other out. This is about community. This is about positive space. Spend more time in the wild. All about getting people outside for mental and physical health. So let's be kind, let's be compassionate, and let's inspire each other with stories of our adventures. That's what we want, adventures. And what do we do at the end of the video? We say, stay wild. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.